Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Backtrekking, the podcast where we look back at the real-world inspirations behind classic episodes of Star Trek. I'm one of your hosts, Caliban, and I hope with all the technology and knowledge that they have in the 24th century, they can finally figure out the infield fly rule. I'm joined on this episode by my co-host.
I'm Gooey Fame, and I've got a dance prepared to show you that I can play baseball.
Yeah, you're really fancy Dan, I'm told. We've returned to explore the inspirations behind your favorite episodes of Star Trek. And this week we're talking about, a show from the 80s and a show from the 90s. And one is set in our present, one's set in the future. But they both center around that timeless game of baseball.
Why not?
Baseball fan?
I'm not a fan. I would say I don't follow baseball or anything, but I'm an appreciator. I'm like a fan of the concept of baseball.
A fan of the concept of baseball. Well, you got a couple teams in your area that you can kind of pick and choose from.
Oh yeah,
fandom-wise.
Yeah. My family, as I'm sure most people, like everyone loves baseball for the most part.
Sure.
My family, we're from like rural Northwest Illinois, so there's a lot of like Cubs kind of fans around there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what my family roots for.
That's a hard row to work there.
It was, yeah. I was happy because my grandfather was a Cubs fan. He has been his whole life, and I was like, man, it'd be cool if they won in his lifetime because he's pretty old, and so they did a couple years ago. So
yeah.
That was a fun time because when they were in the World Series, I was on tour. A band I'm in called Annabelle, and we were on tour, and everyone in the band except for me is from Akron, Ohio, and it was Cubs versus Indians.
Yeah.
So we were watching the games every night, and I wasn't like too partial to who won, but it was. It didn't. I think it was still going, but when we ended the tour, but like it was looking. I think it was looking pretty good for the Cubs the whole time. So it was kind of a fun dynamic, even though I didn't care.
Yeah, it's weird that there's a lot of things that go into the success of a baseball team. Heart, of course, you need that,
Absolutely.
But you got to have it. But it's weird that like if. Especially in the past couple of years or a couple of decades, like if you just get everything together and you get it perfectly lined up, then you can do it. Even the Red Sox can win a World Series. And of course the Cubs pulled it off in 2016 after 100 years of drought. It took a long time to make it happen. And like. Those are both like storied tales. The environs where I grew up, the Twin Cities, we had the Twins, and the Twins were never even successful enough to have a legend about not being able to make the World Series. But of course they did, within 5 years, won it twice, right when I was a young lad, probably in my single to early double digits. And that was both a blessing and a curse because it was amazing to watch my team do it twice in about 5 years, just as I was growing up. But that poisoned me because it meant that I would be eternally a fan of the Minnesota Twins, and they would just never, ever make it happen. Doesn't look like they're ever going to make it happen. Not going to happen anytime soon. I'm stuck rooting for a team that, honestly, in our division, does okay. Like we topped the division, a couple times in the aughts, and then just totally choked when it came to the finals.
Okay.
So
but yeah, you're rooting. You follow baseball.
Baseball fan, love it, root for them, and just know it's not going to happen. not anytime soon.
Of all the sports, like I like going to baseball games too as a casual fan.
Yep,
I've been to a handful at Wrigley, and I think I've gone to a game in Milwaukee and in Cleveland, like because I've also been in bands with people who love baseball.
Sure.
So it's like, okay, yeah, let's go. I'm always game.
Yeah. That's always been a dream of mine to do that tour where you go around and you go to all the major league parks, across the country, and of course, just with like the modernization of everything, but definitely professional sports in the last 10 to 20 years, a lot of these old parks are being phased out, and you're getting like the Staples Center,
Yeah.
or the Microsoft Megadome or whatever. And so I'm not sure that that's even feasible or something you'd want to do anymore. And speaking of like curses, after winning the World Series twice, and then the sale of the team at one point, they finally built a new park for the Twins in downtown Minneapolis. They used to play at the Metrodome, which they shared with the Vikings, which is also in downtown Minneapolis. And as I was growing up, I always said to myself, like, when I grow up, I'm going to get a job downtown, a professional job, and I'm going to live downtown, and I'm going to go to ball games all the time. I'm going to take off work early and go down and, catch a day game. And all of that came true, except for me seeing ball games all the time, because now I live downtown and I work downtown, but it's $40 for an upper deck seat, for an afternoon game. Like, it's crazy. We've got this amazing stadium, and they sell, all kinds of like food, beyond just the hot dogs and the peanuts and Cracker Jacks and all that. And it's like you can barely afford a ticket just for some game against the Brewers or something like that.
Yeah, and I don't know how it is there, but like, if you're not attending a game, like, navigating the neighborhood is awful. At least in Wrigley, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, they built a lot of parking. I can just walk to the stadium from like where I live. It's really frustrating. And then, of course, because they're a local team, like, I can't see the games. They're blacked out unless I have the MLB package or whatever. So 21st century has been rough on my baseball fandom,
no.
and I'm sure a lot of people would sympathize with that.
Yeah, I've liked going to the games, but I've been on the like kind of grouchy end of it too, because I used to work at a pizza place like on Clark, like in the main strip of Wrigleyville, and it was just, and Wrigleyville is just like it's like a bar bro neighborhood. It's awful.
Sure.
And working there was not fun. And then like, trying to do like, there's places I like to go in that neighborhood. Like there's a restaurant I like, and I don't always, cause I'm not up on baseball. So like I'd forget sometimes there's a game, and then I'm trying to go to a restaurant a block away, and it's like, oh crap. Yeah. So I also have like, I don't hold it against it though. I know there's a lot of people who are like, just make fun of like the concept of sports. Yeah. That's not me, but.
Yeah. Well, there are people who, often there's a sort of war or sort of conflict between the ideas of being into sports or being into, artistic pursuits.
Right.
It's something that we dig into a little bit in our episodes that we're going to talk about today. But I always kind of rode that line because I was in band since fourth grade and played instruments and was into music. But I try to get to a baseball game when I can.
Yeah, and I think I was lucky to have, like I said, I've had different bandmates over the years who really appreciate it, and I can always see the appreciation from them. And then I was, for a lot of my adult life, like a big Star Trek fan, and that's, I mean, pretty much what we're going to talk about. But like, it definitely, like, I think the show, not even just the episode we're going to talk about, but it always does a good job of like sticking up for baseball, or like, really making you believe that it's important.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's certainly I mean, it's an American sport. I mean, there's no way to really get around that, for good or bad.
Yeah.
Bad being when I try to listen. The only place I can even experience a game is on the radio now, and it's just one at bat, and then a million Schweigert sausage ads, and then then back to play, and then just more ads. So, but we'll get into all that later. First, before we get started, I wanted to talk a little bit about news. Not a ton of Trek news floating around right now, but there was an announcement recently from David Zappone and Joe Kornbrot, who produced the What We Left Behind, the DS9 documentary. And they provided a little news about what they're working on currently. They had announced, I think, last year that they were working now on a Star Trek Voyager documentary in the same vein, as the DS9 documentary. And they talked recently about how they had to stop, I think, work because of just the pandemic and everything going on, but they are back at work on that documentary, and they had been on the recent Star Trek cruise that happened at the beginning of the year, right before, but the door came down with all the restrictions and quarantines. This cruise happened where Kate Mulgrew was the sort of official captain of the cruise. And so they got a lot of footage from that. They're working on that documentary. They're also trying to work on some HD remasters of some of the scenes from Voyager, like they did for the DS9 doc. So that'll be cool. After having finished Voyager, completed it for the first time recently, I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, I think I've said this before, but I'd love to watch it and maybe, it might help boost my appreciation a little bit. I'm gonna rewatch some of Voyager, hopefully soon. But I usually am more negative about it. So
yeah, I can understand that, and one of the reasons I'm interested to see it is because I really wonder how DS9, and we'll talk about this today. I think DS9 is kind of the baseball of Star Trek shows. In that I think there's so much heart and emotion that exists or existed behind the scenes of that show. I really do enjoy Voyager. It's probably not my favorite Star Trek show, but to me, it feels like it was a lot more calculated in its design and production.
Totally, yeah.
Especially in the way that it was designed as the flagship, so to speak, show of the new network of UPN, and so it had to be a very specific thing. And I think everybody that worked on it, did a great job, and I'm sure they loved working on it. But you hear stories about the sort of maneuvering that had to go on behind the scenes and some of the tensions that were happening. And I'm sure that's all cleared up now, but I'd like to hear that story, and I'd like to see how it's different than the cast of DS9, which seems very much, I'm sure they got in on each other's nerves, but seem so much more like a family, and the way that emotion and that came out during their documentary. I would like to see the contrast, and learn more about how Voyager worked. But speaking of DS9, they're not done with DS9. That same group is going to go back and work on. It's interesting. They don't get too specific about what it's going to be, but I guess a spin-off or a sort of sequel to that documentary is in the early planning stages. And I think one of the main things that they want to focus on is the writer's room side of the DS9 doc. In the DS9 doc, we see some of the chief writers of the original series come together and pitch a season 8. And I think one of the things they want to do is get those guys back on a room and have them spitball a little more and see how far they can take it.
They just a whole documentary that's them writing a whole season.
Just them, yeah, right. And then seeing in the documentary they had sort of animated or still shots of what some of these scenes would look like.
That sounds great. It's basically official fan fiction.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it really is. And, with the advent of Star Trek Picard, and, of course, Kate Mulgrew reprising her role as Captain Janeway for this new Nickelodeon series, they have to be eyeing these properties, right? They got to be looking at DS9 and thinking, well, we got to keep that going, right?
They should, and it should be, I just think they should get some of those guys, too. Some of those creative minds who are attached to that show to work on it. That'd be cool to see kind of them continue working with the characters they wrote with and stuff.
I'd love to see that happen. And something else that I'd like to see happen, and I think is becoming even more likely than it's ever been, is getting HD remasters of DS9 and Voyager. It's at this point, especially with streaming services becoming the chief way that we're going to watch a lot of stuff. I'm sure that you've heard and people have heard of the recent announcement by Warner Brothers that they'd be releasing all of their major releases on VOD as the same day that they come out in theaters. Having this, and Bob Dylan sold all of his music to Universal. Did you hear about that?
No, I did not hear about that.
His entire catalog of 600 songs he has sold to Universal Music Group. The idea being that there's like, when it comes to music rights, there's like rights to the recordings and there's rights to distribution of the music. And so he sold the distribution rights. So you won't see like them taking his music and like remixing it and doing stuff or giving it to other artists. Like they don't have those rights, but they do have rights to use it however they want. So you're going to see a cereal commercial sometime in the near future that's got Blowing in the Wind on it or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
You know? And the reason that Universal did that is because they, want to offer that on Spotify or on streaming services. They want to, content is king and it's gold. It's the treasure that we want these days. And so if Viacom CBS has all these shows, why not deliver them to the audience in the best way possible so they can say, hey, look at us. Like we're your number one stop for Star Trek and sci-fi. We've got DS9 and HD and Voyager and all these things. I definitely think that we are going to be looking at an announcement about that sometime soon.
Yeah, they should do it. It really sticks out if you go back and forth from like watching a TNG ep to Deep Space Nine. You're like, aw.
Yeah. By the time you get to Enterprise, they're already shooting in widescreen and on HD, so that's pretty much set. But yeah, DS9 and Voyager are the last two boxes to tick.
Yeah, and they both have their big fan bases, so they deserve it.
Yeah, it's the what? Hey, look, if we're all going to be slaves, this is the the delicious gruel that we get, right? Like, yeah, that's the one good thing that's coming out of this consolidation of media is at least we're going to get some nice gruel.
I can't wait to argue about like what awful changes they made or not.
Well, hopefully they don't change too much. Yeah, it's not like a special edition type situation. But I was listening to, I can't remember, I was listening to one of the many podcasts I listened to recently, and they were talking about how there was something in some movie. What a great anecdote this is turning into. But they were watching some movie, and there was some moment that was kind of controversial from this movie, and it was something that was in the trailer, and it was absolutely, definitely in the actual film, but they were watching it on like Amazon Prime.
Oh,
to talk
I know
about
what you're talking about. You're talking about Avatar.
Yes,
they were talking about that on Chapo, right?
Okay, all right. Well, we honored ourselves as Chapo listeners. Yeah,
that's fine.
But yeah, they took the
the
tail sex
the blue tail
out of
thing. Yeah.
And of course, it became a political issue because it was Chapo about how like, oh, Jeff Bezos controls our reality now.
That was really funny, yeah.
Which I guess I agree with, but yeah, like
I loved all the memes of like, this is what they took from us.
The tail sex, yeah.
Because it was, yeah, I remember that being a thing everyone made fun of at the time.
Yeah, well, definitely, which is why they took it out. But at the same time, like we always thought, like, oh, crazy old George Lucas is the guy that's changing our memories and trying to like put them in the memory hole. But if this is going to be a thing going forward now, it's like, God damn, now I got to buy all these DVDs and Blu-rays, so I can remember things the way that I actually remember them.
I guess we're sort of used to it with the Lucas stuff. Like,
yeah, I didn't know that was going to be spreading to other properties.
I think it's stupid like the Lucas stuff, but at least with that it's like the creator like doing his own
but who made that
version.
decision about Amazon? Yeah, that's a great
who put it was Jeff. Yeah,
just don't, hands off my Trek. I want to watch Code of Honor when I want to watch Code of Honor.
Exactly. Like you know what they would do with that episode? They'd be like, you know what, we made them all lizards.
Well, actually, I would want to see that. If they could do that, I would.
Sure,
That's
okay, yeah.
But don't change anything else. Give Wesley new sweaters or something like that.
Oh, Technicolor sweaters from Wesley.
Or give him a cool leather jacket instead. We'll just digitally put.
Oh
that on there.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you think Wesley is annoying in the first season? We're gonna make him cool.
We replaced him with Zac Efron. Yeah. Hands off my Wesley.
Adult jacked Zac Efron. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Zac Efron, let's get into our featured subject for today's show. Musicals on stage and film they may wax and wane in popularity, but they're nearly always likely to find their intended audience. TV musicals, on the other hand, have historically found the path to success to be more difficult. From Cop Rock to Gallivant to Smash, the TV musical often puts on a hell of a show for us for not so much of a ratings return. High school musicals, however, often buck that trend with shows like Glee and High School Musical, the series, delivering amazing performances in an educational environment. Those shows owe a debt of gratitude, though, to the original high school kids singing their hearts out film and the ongoing TV series that it inspired, Fame.
We're a disgrace to the uniform. You want to quit, man? You want to quit? Go ahead, man. Get out of here. But let me tell you something. Danny Amatullo never quits. You hear that? He never quits.
Neither deserving of Bromowitz. I just want to say, Amatullo, that I'm in this with you. I'm going all the way with you. I never quit anything in my life, and I'm not going to start now.
All right, man. I'm impressed.
Okay, ladies, let's go. You too, Amatullo. Today, Mr. Sharovsky's going to show you the correct way to catch a pop foul. Come on, let's go. Hubba, let's move it. Hey.
What are you trying to pull here, Morlock? We didn't come down here to play a bunch of girls.
This bunch of girls happens to be some of the most finely honed athletes in the whole city of New York.
What's your engagement with Fame, the property, the franchise?
I think I said it in our last episode, but I've just never seen any of it. I don't. It's the TV show. That's not like the big thing it's known for, right?
Well, I mean, the film came out in 1980, and that was a pretty big deal. It was nominated for some Academy Awards for the music. The film itself came out to sort of mixed reviews. And then it was adapted into a TV series in 1982 that ran for 6 seasons. And that sounds good, but it really only ran for 2 years on NBC and was canceled for low ratings, but then was picked up for first-run syndication, much like a show like Star Trek The Next Generation. And then it ran for another 4 years. So it was always around, but it was never exactly super popular. But, I mean, 6 seasons is nothing to spit at.
Yeah, except that you can only really find, like, the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, because I don't think those syndicated seasons are fit into a syndication deal or a distribution deal in the same way.
I was like mind blown when you were able to.
I have my ways.
Yeah, I was.
Yes.
I was like, I don't even know. I don't even want to know. I was just okay.
Yeah, don't ask any questions. Just take this. And the reason that we're talking about that is because in the 4th season of the show, they did an episode called "The Old Ball Game," and that episode was written by one Ira Stephen Bear. One of his early jobs was working on the Fame series, for which he wrote 12 episodes of the show. He did the last 3 years of the show.
Oh wow! Okay, so is this like an early? Because I don't really know much about him outside of Star Trek. Is this like one of his early stuff?
Yeah, that was really like one of his first major shows.
Okay.
He was also served as a producer on the show, and that was basically right before. I mean, he left that in '87, and then came on to TNG in the 3rd season in '89. And so, yeah, like that's like, I think that he likes baseball. When we talk about like baseball and its connection to Star Trek, we're usually talking about Michael Piller.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Who was a producer and showrunner for a time, and then also developed DS9 and Voyager. And he was a huge baseball fan, and he would often have like, I don't know if they were like full-on story meetings, but he would take his writers to baseball games.
Sweet.
And then kind of knock out like ideas and talk about the shows, at the game. But yeah, Ira Stephen Bear is a baseball fan as well, and came up with this idea for the show. He came up with a lot of ideas for the show. I think by the time they reached syndication, nobody was really telling them what to do, so they were kind of just doing whatever they wanted to. And so he was trying to always introduce like these really outsized elements into the show. An idea that he had for the final season of the show is he wanted to do, I don't know if it was going to be a dream sequence or what, but he wanted to do like the Road Warrior meets Fame. So it was going to take place in like a post-apocalyptic fascist society where the state, only allows certain people to sing. And so they were going to be like singing rebels against like the state. Yeah. And the studio heard about the idea and heard that they wanted to like burn the sets. And they're like, no, you can't do that. And so they like shut it down.
Dang. Yeah.
They weren't going to burn the sets. It was like they were going to break some of the sets because they were nearing the end of, the series. It was the 6th season.
Yeah, what are they going to do with those? They're probably just still chilling there somewhere.
Yeah, well, yeah, they probably got burned after the show went off the air. But yeah, so he's always had that. I mean, he's a sci-fi and a fantasy fan, and so he's always had wanted to put these ideas into.
He's an
into
idea
what he does.
guy.
Yeah.
I was I mean, I went into this knowing that now because we kind of decided on the premise, but like knowing he wrote it and everything. But I was like pretty impressed by this episode. Like I didn't know what to expect going into watching this, TV show based on a movie musical.
Right?
So it's like, I kind of had, I guess, low expectations.
It's got kind of a weird, twisted path. In 2009, they rebooted Fame into a film, which was a loose remake, and I don't think did all that well. Did okay.
Was there like a fad around that specific time? Like I remember High School Musical was kind of in that era, but wasn't there also like a Hairspray reboot movie? Like I just feel like musical stuff like that had like a sort of a comeback. Maybe it didn't.
Yeah, musicals kind of wax and wane in that way. There was actually, I forgot about this because of 2020, but there was a 2020 Fame the Musical film as well.
What?
Yeah,
like did that have
starring nobody I know, and as far as I can tell, was a wide release, but was not highly rated, and I think just kind of came out like in April, so it basically got killed, by the pandemic.
Oh, I feel like I remember seeing this poster, maybe.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the whole thing about Fame is that Alan Parker, who is he died this year in July, is a film director and writer and has directed a lot of different films that people would know, like Midnight Express and Mississippi Burning. And he also did a lot of musical stuff. His first, speaking of kids singing, his first film ever was the film Bugsy Malone, which is notorious as a film about like the gangster Bugsy Malone, starring children. So Jodie Foster and Scott Baio were the like oldest people in the film, and all of the whole gimmick of the film is it's like kids who are like gangsters. So they're like smoking and playing cards and rubbing each other out, but it's like children playing these roles.
So he like went to probably like a middle school production of that.
I guess.
And then he was like, okay, what if we did this with like good actors?
Yeah, well, it's sort of like the MTV sketch show Human Giant, which was like Paul Scheer and Aziz Ansari's first thing, had a running sketch called the Sugar Plums or whatever, and they were like talent agents, but they were kiddie talent agents, but they kept trying to get their kids to do like these adult things like Little 9/11 and like these really dramatic sort of things. So it had the same effect, but it was in real life. But he also directed Fame. He directed Pink Floyd's The Wall and The Commitments. And he got together with a producer who in 1976, we keep going back here, A Chorus Line came out, which was the film version of the successful stage musical. In that film, a character mentions going to an arts high school, and apparently he thought like, oh, that'd be a great idea. Well, let's do like a movie about kids in the inner city who are going to a high school, and they can sing and dance, and it'll be like A Chorus Line. And so he got together with Alan Parker. They based the film on the real life High School of Performing Arts in New York City. And so it was about these followed the lives and like the school careers of these kids who, are inner city kids, with their own inner city problems, but they're trying to make it and they're trying to succeed in song and dance and theater. And then, like I said, the film did okay, but it was adapted into this show, which would be set nominally in the same Fameverse.
Okay.
But would really only feature one or two sort of characters who would come over. There was the character of Lydia, who in the film had a very small role, played by Debbie Allen, but she would become a dance teacher on the series of Fame.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I didn't know anybody in this at all except for Dick Miller.
Dick Miller, yeah.
Is he a regular on the show?
Yeah, he's a
okay.
He's a recurring. Yeah, he's in actually I think 30 episodes of the show. He's just playing Louis, running the pizza joint in the bowling place.
He's like the Vic Fontaine of the show.
Yeah, he is kind of
just like this cool old guy you go to talk to.
Yeah, that's the one thing that they couldn't squeeze into the Star Trek episode, because with there's a lot of DiMaggio sort of references in the Fame episode, and so you think that would really work with the sort of 60s or 50s casino of Vic Fontaine, but they never really make that connection.
He should have played or something.
Yeah, they're in the Holosuite, sure, why not?
Yeah.
So that's the setup. You know, we're here in this New York School of Performing Arts high school, and it's a bunch of theater kids. You know, it's a bunch of singing and dancing kind of theater geek kids trying to make it happen. And of course, the main character in this case, Danny Amatullo, runs afoul of I guess grade school bully that he interacted with, played by Rob Morrow of Northern Exposure fame.
Oh, okay, that's who that. Okay, maybe I know who some of the people are. Just none of their faces like clicked with me, I guess.
You're not a Janet Jackson fan?
I don't. Oh, actually, I love Janet Jackson. I do love Janet Jackson.
This was like
I forgot she was in there.
Yeah, this is right before she blew up, because I think she was only on the fourth season of the show and did not have a real good time doing it. Like, kind of did it at her father's behest and didn't really want to do it. And then she left the show and immediately walked into like Control, Fame, like that whole era.
She's way better off, probably.
Yeah, it was a great decision.
Oh my gosh.
For her to leave. Yeah.
Yeah, I love a lot of her stuff, but she wasn't like a big player in this episode, I feel like.
No, she wasn't. She made good. Nia Peoples plays Nicole. She had some fame, you know, as a singer and actress, and Nia Peoples is still around today. Like, she does TV and stuff like that. But that's about it. Like, not too many people got out of Fame.
Yeah. Like a lot of the kids, especially. I was like, I don't know who they are.
And so they're at the bowling at Louis'. They run afoul of this guy, and it's a very similar sort of setup to the Star Trek episode where they have this old rivalry and they got to make this thing happen, beat these guys at baseball. And there's an element to this episode that is kind of its time. This is, of course, the early 80s, coming off of the 70s and the women's liberation movement. And so the dudes, they're gatekeeping baseball. They don't want girls to play this baseball, but of course the girls have to show them up.
You know what? I thought overall, though, it was like, especially for the time period it was set in, it was like, I mean, you kind of know what's going to happen, but I felt like it was a pretty, like, I was pretty satisfied with the story. Like, as the beats were moving along, I was like kind of cheering along for like the girls when they're mixing it up and stuff. Like, obviously it could have been done better, I think.
Yeah.
You know, but I think for how it handles the topic, it's like I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's funny that like the songs on this show are either original or they're kind of cribbed from popular hits. And I'm not exactly sure how they pull that off exactly, but we were talking about the girls, wanting to play the game too, and so we have a song and dance number on the field where they're doing like their own
Hey,
baseball themed version of Hey Mickey. Yeah. Which works okay.
I was like, all right, they're doing a song to say they can play baseball.
Yeah. Everybody knows like the Fame song from the movie, which is the theme. which is the theme of the series, of course. And I have to say, for my own part, like I was aware of Fame, but I didn't really watch the show when it was on. It just wasn't the kind of thing that, ironically, as I was growing up in theater and singing and acting myself, I just didn't really watch the show. And so I didn't really know what to expect either. And to be honest, I won't say it's bad, but I kind of expected more. Like if you watch...
you expected more.
Yeah. If you
could...
you can do a lot more with less, I think, with the tools that we have, the filmmaking tools today. But like if you watch like a Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, for instance, they really go for it, like in a lot of the musical scenes and the concepts of what they're doing. But the first like musical number in this, when they're in the pizza parlor and Dick Miller, I think Dick Miller singing.
I don't know if anyone was singing.
Yeah, who knows? He's singing their little song about how they have to have spite and scorn instead of heart to beat these guys. It seemed like a lot of the choreography was just kind of done on the day. Like it's four kids who are on this show about singing and dancing. Ostensibly they can perform, but they're all just kind of like doing Three Stooges, like slapstick.
I totally
around this,
see what you're saying. Yeah.
Around this bar.
You can tell like it wasn't as funny as they hoped it would be because they added a bunch of boings and sproings to the sound effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did think about that because I was going in, I'm not like, I do like some musicals, but I wasn't like going in like, I hope to hear some good songs. And really, there was only like 3 songs in the episode, which I was expecting way more. But I just ended up being more like into it because I did kind of like the story and like the episode. But like you could have taken the music out and it probably would have been better, actually.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how they wanted to fit or tried to fit the music in with what was going on. And I'm assuming that Ira Stephen Bear isn't like sitting down and writing like these songs. I'm sure they've got like a lyricist and that. But if you come to the lyricist, during the production process and go, we're doing a baseball one. It's like, what? This is like an episode that was later in the season. So I'm assuming that this is like, this is when we experiment. So what do you want to do? You want to do a baseball thing? Sure. I think we can rent a high school field for that. But yeah, I'm not sure that the songs had a ton to do with actual baseball or how they're telling the story. I did think that, I mean, like it's interesting. We'll talk about the Star Trek side of it later, but it's interesting to see how they found like parallels or how they found obstacles to throw in the way of the people. First they play a scrimmage or just a fun game against the girls, and the boys get blown out. So now the boys are like, well, we don't want to play, and so they all quit except for Danny. So all they've got is girls, and then they have to find more players. So they go out and they find like Dwight and the band nerds. And the girls they redeem themselves, they get their own. The only people that get really screwed in this are the band nerds. Like the band nerds just suck, and there isn't any there's a little bit of like, oh, we've got heart and spirit, and maybe a couple of them make good, but as a band kid myself, I was a little pissed that the band nerds are just the worst.
I also think they kind of screwed over that Jewish kid.
Yeah, Irving and Abramovitz, yeah.
My roommate actually runs like a youth baseball league in like the Chicagoland area, and he coaches, and he actually coaches a team of Jewish kids, and I showed him the clip because he's had to like deal with scheduling issues and stuff like that, and it was just really funny how like specific that was. But I was like, I know it wasn't like really the point, and he does come to the game at the end, so it's kind of like he shows up to support. But I was like, man, he really was just like, oh, can we play another time? And he was like, have you tried not being Jewish? Like,
no Saturdays for me, thanks. And I guess we just have to make the comparisons to Star Trek now. Also didn't like the fact that like Quark is the one that kind of gets out of the baseball game, and then he can't really play after that. We don't want to make the connection between the Ferengi and Jewish people. So
Ira, come on.
Well, I mean, it's 1982. He wasn't even thinking about that, but just the sort of unfortunate parallels there. But yeah, he does come to the game later, and he's like, I'm here with you guys in spirit.
But yeah, the band kids don't really get it. But I think I don't think it was important. I do like that at least like through the story, like it was like your kind of like very typical like battle of the sexes type storyline. But I at least like that like they gave the girls kind of, you know, their own stuff, and I don't think it was like too condescending or anything like that.
Yeah, and I like how, not having again seen like the rest of the series, I don't know if like the week before they were really getting into baking, and then suddenly all their classes are about baking or whatever. But I liked how when they're in, you know, English class with Mrs. Sherwood, Ms. Sherwood, she's like, you know, one of the girls is like oiling her glove or whatever. She's like, you know, I'm trying to make a pocket.
And the
she's
teacher's
like, oh, okay.
into it.
Yeah, right.
And her and the other old lady teacher are like the coaches.
Yeah, and they're talking about Pride and Prejudice or something like that, and they're like, yeah, it's kind of like Darcy had to bench Elizabeth, and she's like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, and they had like one of the girls was like their pitcher. She was like the best pitcher they had, and then I liked that. Like I was kind of like, oh, is this just going to come down to like we can't win because we don't have boys on our team? But it really ended up being like they won because they all worked together, you know? Like, I don't think they did as great of a job, like, getting that whole idea across, but it was kind of a cool thing, like, where these dumbasses, like, were eventually like, yeah, let's go play, you know?
Yeah, and they do win. They win because they work together, and they also win because Danny draws on, you know, he asks WWJDD, what would Joe DiMaggio do? And
yes.
He draws on his Italian heritage and a lot of stock footage of the Clipper.
That was great.
Doing his stuff, yeah.
I like that wasn't like the final moment, though. Like that it was, you know, he got to have his arc complete, but then like it was really like then the team kind of worked together. I guess the final moment was like a weird bunt thing.
Yeah. There are a lot of, we'll talk about that when we get to Star Trek 2. There are a lot of parallels between, it's really like, should Ira Steven Behr get paid again for this?
Yeah, he just copy pasted.
Yeah, which apparently nobody involved with Fame cared at all, that he just basically just did this again on DS9.
I think, yeah, why would you care? You shouldn't care, because you're not going to help Fame out at this point.
Yeah, Fame has moved on to greener climes.
That specific bit was funnier in the Star Trek episode, but I will say I love that's an all-time favorite Star Trek episode of mine, I think, because it's so fun. But I did kind of get more invested in that story I was talking about in the Fame episode, because it did have this push and pull of like, you know, the girls are beating them, so they don't want to play. But now this, you know, there was, whereas like in the Star Trek, it was just kind of more bits, you know, like gags the whole time, which was fun. It's really fun, but I don't get really too invested in like Sisko's story in the Deep Space Nine episode as much.
There is, I didn't know this, but there is, of course, I think 3 High School Musical movies. But I know that there is a current show, TV series on Disney Plus right now that is High School Musical, the series, which is apparently
That's
like
awesome.
It's a mockumentary about kids who are putting on High School Musical, the musical, like at their high school.
Oh my gosh.
And so it like, I think it exists, like it's a meta thing where it exists in our universe, but they're fans of High School Musical, which is not like real to them, that it is a movie to them. So they're putting that on in their own. Anyway, it almost makes me want to watch the series, but I wonder if I'd have to watch like the High School Musical movies to understand
to know what's going on. They should make that into commitment. A game. High School Musical, the series, the game.
The game, yeah. And can you figure out what the hell is going on? This was filmed, of course, in L.A., but they filmed all the exteriors in New York. So I guess they would just have to ship everybody to New York for, you know, a week or two and cram everything in. Leading to, I can't remember which one, but one of the cast members, I think it might have been Debbie Allen, was only in outdoor scenes in, I think, the 3rd season, because she lived in New York, but for whatever reason they couldn't get her out to L.A. So whenever they would see Lydia in that season, it would always be outdoors because they were shooting outdoors.
I love
in New
that.
York. Yeah.
That's like the weirdest. The only comparison I can think of is like they gave Gates McFadden a coat to hide her pregnancy or something. You know?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But,
yeah. Or Bolana's like got a cool jacket.
Yeah.
That, yeah.
But it's like way more specific and unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, you run into these things when you're doing TV. Like, I think Carlo Imperato, who played Danny, is the only cast member that's actually in all 6 seasons. And it's like, did he flunk twice? Like, why is he is he?
I could believe
is every
it.
year a year of a school year or what?
He's a little bit of a dummy.
I guess so. But otherwise, like, yeah, there was a lot of people that came, in and out of the doors of fame, and like we said, went on to other stuff, if not necessarily amazing stardom and celebrity.
You made me think of this was very New York. Like, I liked all the accents and stuff. Like, that's always fun to hear. I was just mildly entertained, like, constantly by like the bully and all that stuff.
Yeah, the bully who's really laying it on thick.
Yeah, I don't know who's actually. I'm sure none of them are New Yorkers, probably, right? Not how many of them are like that Italian?
Yeah, they're pretty Italian. I don't know. Rob Morrow is he was on Northern Exposure, but I don't know. I bet he's probably from New York.
Okay, I'll buy it.
Well, you're from like northwestern Chicagoland, but it'd be like if you were like, yeah, we got to go out and get some sausages and some,
Yeah,
you can turn it up.
I've never met anyone who talks like that.
Anything else to say? Oh, there's something that I wanted to say. Being a TV show that is now syndicated and doesn't have a network behind it, you got to sometimes cut some corners, and it's tough to film outdoors, especially if you're going to film outdoors in the one of the most populated cities in the world. So I like the fact that they were doing one dialogue scene on the baseball diamond, and a plane goes over, and they just have to keep doing it. So there's just like this plane sound just going over, and I guess they couldn't ADR or just go back in and re-record that dialogue.
It's realistic.
Yeah, it does.
Realism.
It adds a little bit of. Not everything has to be so sanitized.
Sure, yeah, especially nowadays. I'm sure all these high school musicals are just polished and shiny,
Yeah.
The songs in this are not polished. They kind of suck. They're cheesy. And that's saying something for like a musical. Sometimes these like high school musical things can be very cheesy, but this is in particular very.
They're going to do it. The girls are going to do a dance number to show you that they're into it, and we're going to film it all from one angle and one take, basically. And the girl, the dancing's great, but it's usually we would try to amp this up a little bit.
Yeah, I was expecting it to evolve or something. Yeah, like
maybe in the bridge we'll just do like just a pelvic level shot. We'll just see everybody's pelvises as we pan across, and that's about it.
Yeah, I was expecting more. Yeah, like it to evolve into like a baseball anthem type thing. Like, have you ever heard Scott Stapp's anthem for the Florida Marlins?
Oh my God.
So he rewrote one of his own songs that he wrote about his son.
Oh my God.
And changed it.
They're all about his son, aren't they?
Actually, yeah, there's a video of him writing the original song, and he's like, he's like, every album I have a message that I want to tell to my son, and then you listen to the lyrics and it's all vague, like "you will soar" or type stuff. Actually, and in the video you can see his lyric sheets, and it says "you will SORE." I'm pretty sure.
What?
I'm pretty sure. I hope I'm not misremembering it. I'll send you this video, but
I wonder if his kid even likes his music, even likes Creed. I want to see like I want to see a National Treasure type movie where his kid like hates his music, but then finds out, oh my God, there's a secret message that I got to decipher that my dad left me.
And it's just like,
my dad disappeared.
Keep your head above the clouds. Oh,
yeah, right. Be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Yeah.
So he rewrote "You Will Soar" and made it "Marlins Will Soar," and it's so sick because it's just him listing baseball references. He just goes like, "We want strikeouts, base hits, double plays." You got it. You got to hear this song.
Infield fly rule.
He does. He goes like 1 strike, 2 strikes, a diving catch.
Wow, I don't think we're gonna top that.
No. Zachary Taylor High. That was cool.
Yeah, Zach Taylor High. They just won the all city for Zachary Taylor High. I also like that. I guess Dick Miller is he plays the umpire in the game, and it's like, yeah, Dick Miller's kind of maybe he's the Odo of fame.
Okay, I can see it. I also could see like because I was
kind of the Quark too.
Yeah, I can see he runs the establishment. I was
Right.
thinking like, is the other team going to go with this? But then you got to believe that, like, kind of with Odo, he loves rules.
He's got a code.
Yeah,
He's got the umpire's code. Yeah.
Dick Miller loves baseball, so of course he wants to see a good game.
Yeah, and they got that bit where that's Dick Miller, R.I.P. First of all, but like he's just he's a guy who he doesn't have any range at all, but yet he's just him. He's just himself. And you just believe
he's
him.
so good at that.
And
though.
he can make anything work. Yeah, like, the many movies he's been in, or, the Star Trek episode that he's in where it's like, yeah, you're kind of like a cop / janitor for like a oppressive regime, in the future. And he's like, all right, I'll just make that work. Yeah, come on over here. Yeah. But yeah, he's really great in this. And of course he met the Clipper himself. He met Joe back in the day. And Joe told him to get out of my way, kid. So that's his like inspiring quote.
That's so like fitting for him.
I could tell he really meant it.
Yeah, he carries a lot of this episode, and he's not even in it that much.
Yeah, I'd like to see some of his other episodes and see what he does.
Like a Dick Miller centric episode.
A Dick Miller cut of fame. Yeah,
he can apparently sing and dance. Maybe so.
Maybe we'll see. Yeah, I kind of doubt it, but. Well, I think that's it for our look at Fame, but we will be back to continue this doubleheader after a word from our sponsors. We'll be back with more backtracking.
So Caliban, you finally show your face. Just in time for me to blow it off.
It's fitting you chose to hide in this abandoned movie theater, Mika and Hana, because for you, the show's over.
Big talk, but soon you'll be as dead as all the well-loved celebrities we lost this year.
When I'm done, they'll be cleaning you off the walls like COVID-19.
Wait, where's your face mask?
I thought we were going to fight outside.
Oh, come on!
I mean, if the murder hornets aren't out there still.
Take this.
You want to watch HBO Max on my phone?
I'll start cooking some beans in this old boot.
Just Enough Trope. News, reviews, and apocalyptic views every Monday on the Just Enough Trope Network.
Won't the 5G kill us?
All right, we're back, and it's time to talk about the Trek side of this equation. Baseball is as American as apple pie. It's America's national pastime, but the Federation isn't America. And TNG put the exclamation point on that by declaring that the Fed had no time for capitalism, television, and baseball, that most American of sports. Trek posits that the world of the future would move on from such a deliberately paced game of esoteric ceremony, but what would replace it? Spring ball is for old men, and Parisi Squares is for suicidal ones, and the less said about Tsunkatse, the better. But don't cry into your Cracker Jacks just yet, because some denizens of the 24th century, American or no, still appreciate a sport that's about challenging yourself, about having heart, and enjoying a sunny day outside, and, of course, death to the opposition. It's Take Me Out to the Holosuite.
Sisko's oldest rival.
It's been a long time.
Challenges him to one final showdown.
We will destroy them.
The name of the game is baseball.
Strike three!
But for Sisko,
Strike three!
this is no time to play.
This game is supposed to be fun, not a life and death struggle.
Strike three!
On the next Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
I cribbed some of that from the episode that we did on this episode on enterprising individuals. And it's an episode that is, I wonder how it fits into DS9 compared to like how we talked about how it fits into Fame. It's an episode that people like a lot, and it's an episode that almost every episode that isn't literally just following, on from the previous episode and doing the Dominion War in the 7th season of DS9 is like a victory lap. This feels like a celebration of the show itself to me.
Yeah, especially because I was saying, like, it's all bits, like there's not...
Yeah.
No one has... Like, Cisco has a little bit of a character arc in it about how he puts Rom in at the end or whatever. But overall, it's like, what would happen if Worf played baseball? And what would happen if O'Brien played baseball? Which is fine to me. Like, I love these characters, and they're the characters are just so strong. Like, that's the other day I made a tweet that was just like, I always make a tweet when I watch Deep Space Nine about how good it is. But even like just as an episode of like their characters hanging out playing baseball, I was like, this is like the best TV show I've ever seen.
Yeah. What would happen if O'Brien played baseball is he would throw out his shoulder like he does all the time and then do something else. But it's the kind of thing where you've got this huge epic saga that's happening on DS9 where the entire galaxy is at war. And not only does it fit as just, we need a break from that. Like, we need a break from being hunted by Jem'Hadar and all these other storylines. But yeah, it also just works to see, what can these characters still do 7 years in? Can we still find new things for them to do, and new playgrounds for them? And, they do by just having a baseball game with Vulcans.
I would say, and it would be a different show if it wasn't doing this, but like, if they weren't doing like this Dominion War stuff, like this type of thing could kind of have like the end of the series, like just kind of running its course vibe, where it's like, okay, this week they all go to the dentist, like,
yeah, right, yeah,
or it's like they're just, we don't know, I guess we'll just have them do whatever they, jump the shark or something like that.
Yeah, it's and the show avoided that because you're right, it could have done that. This doesn't feel like that, although I guess if they played like soccer next week or whatever, it would have been. But like they could have easily done like, let's do another spy one, but they never really did that. They brought that setting back just, in like a scene or two in other episodes for fun, but they didn't just go, this is, the in like Flint to our man Flint or whatever, where they just bring that whole setting back again. Because they had stuff to do. And when you're like really focused on a big, ongoing storyline, then every once in a while you can drop in something like a baseball game. I love the fact that they took essentially the exact same plot setup, and even same bits from Fame, and then just plugged it into this, deep sort of roster of talent and setting of DS9. And instead of it having it just be like, hey, you're kind of like an Italian kid, and I'm an Italian kid, and we're rivals, they came up with this thing of the Vulcan character and his team of Vulcans who, for some crazy reason, like, want to play baseball. Like, they love. Does he really love baseball, or is it just?
I don't think
Cisco
so.
Likes baseball. Everyone learned baseball. Everyone learned baseball, so I can stick it to Cisco one more time.
I would love to see like the meeting where he convinced them.
Where Solak did.
Yeah, to be like, because there's no way they want to play baseball. Like, this is clearly a setup.
Oh, the Vulcans look miserable. Like, they're all like, none of them. He's the only person who has any investment in this game at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, which that though then makes it way more fun and believable. Not that you really have to. That like all the other characters could even play in the game.
Yeah. Like,
you don't have the stakes of like in Fame where it's like, oh, can girls play? Well, you obviously couldn't do that at all, but
right.
Like, they don't really question anyone but like Rom, I guess, because they're all like idiots when it comes to baseball, but it's like believable that they could take on the Vulcan team because like, those guys don't play baseball either.
Yeah, and it works because it's an anachronism to them, and it's like, it's a throwback because the first couple times I saw this episode, I was a little dubious. Like, these people all live in this future where nobody is in bad health. Nobody's overweight. They all, through technology and I guess good nutrition, they have great bodies. They're always playing spring ball and they're playing other sports, but and I think they focus well on the esoteria of the rules of baseball, how it's so weird and baked in tradition, and there's a little awkwardness with them getting used to the gloves and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just that this is so unfamiliar. It'd be like if you asked them to play, I don't know, what's some crazy sport from old timey days, you know?
I don't even know what did they play back in the day?
It's like that thing where like you have like a character who's good at sports or is like a jock goes, what's the sport where the Afghans hit the goat carcass around like with sticks? You know, like Rambo, where Rambo goes
3?
to where he goes to Afghanistan and he's like, Rambo, I could do whatever.
Doesn't he play?
Like, yeah, he does play.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And of course he's great at it because he's Rambo. But
this is the exact analogy you're trying to make.
It's a culture shock for them. It's not even a future shock. It's a past shock for them. It's like, what is this weird ass game where you go and stand on a diamond and you throw a ball around? Yeah,
I would love to see an episode where they have to play Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, we don't see
this. What do you do?
And you hold this controller. Yeah, we don't see a lot of games, video games in Star Trek, except for the game.
Because they're all
telling me
gamers.
This game doesn't make you come? I got the mushroom.
They all just go on the holodeck. Like everyone is a gamer in the future. Like Picard is a gamer.
They've got Super Mario World opening at Universal. You could just go into the holodeck and be Mario. You could just jump on mushrooms and break bricks and boxes.
Yeah,
they're
like
that.
A controller. Ugh.
Yeah, right. You at least give me the dance pad or something like that. Come on, I'm used to moving around. But it's just like it's so strange. And when you've got a Vulcan who like has no emotions and he's your villain, the only way he can't go like, I'm going to enjoy destroying you. The only way we can show that he really is like an obsessed villain is the length that he's going to inflict this pain on Cisco. Like the fact that he goes and like scouts their game, that is like a villain going, I'm going to destroy you.
That's so good.
Even though he's just sitting there silently in the stands, it's like, oh my God, like he is really trying to twist the knife.
I really like his equivalent scene of like when Cisco gets thrown out, he has his moment where he like loses his temper, but it's really just him saying like,
hey,
this is inappropriate.
You can't do that. Yeah.
He says like very formally, like this is inappropriate and like barely touches Odo. But it's like, you can tell for him, that's like him losing his cool.
Yeah, this is him doing like 1 star on the Uber app, but like not leaving a comment, just closing the app. It's like, oh my God.
Vulcans are so passive aggressive. Yeah.
That's the nuclear option for a Vulcan. Yeah. It's so, you mentioned before, like how good the characters are and really the actors too. And they all plug into this, fairly well. I love the fact that Bear took his old script, which is, this is a script about a bunch of kids who are trying to make their dreams come true. And so we've got to have, the main character, he reaches down deep inside and he hits the home run and he does everything that he's supposed to. And we can change that. We can improve that for our world where these characters have everything. They're not poor kids in New York. They've got everything they need. So they can have a situation where they can lose and still find the value in that, because it isn't about crushing. It's not about death to the opposition. And it's not necessarily about that. It's about, enjoying what you do. And it's about letting go of this stupid, spiteful conflict that he's had with Solok for so long. It's about enjoying, their federation. It's about enjoying the family that they've created here and just, going outside, having fun.
Yeah, he learns the right lesson in the end, which is, don't care so much about that, and you should just bully this guy. Like,
yeah, and how many times have you heard Cisco tell somebody, I'm sorry for what I did?
Yeah, that's fair.
He does that for Rom.
Normally he's just like, I can live with this.
Yeah, right. And it's totally different than Fame because it's not like, get out of here, Gump, you suck. You can't fucking play baseball.
That was like,
Stupid band nerd.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, I think Rom worked. Well, I guess that bunting part in the Fame episode isn't really comical. They were just kind of like, okay, their last batter is like maybe this girl who's not as good.
Right.
So it's more believable. But I think it was played for like greater comedy with Rom, where it's like, oh God, this guy, you know?
Yeah, and it emphasizes too, because in keeping to Rom's character, it's totally unintentional, and even after it's complete and it's succeeded, he has no idea like what he did or what happened. But it also just adds to, it plays up on that idea of baseball as being a game where you can have the best team and they can have the highest batting averages, and there's just some fluke, something can happen still that throws everything into chaos, and you've got to catch up. And I think that they pull that off with Rom just accidentally bunting onto base.
You said something that just sort of like dropped the idea in my mind for a second. I was thinking about how there is kind of like the jump the sharky element of this that it avoids, but like I think about like some shows that stick around too. I think about like The Office or whatever that like kind of sticks around too long. And the comedy with the characters becomes like a caricature of itself a little bit. I really liked some of I love all the comedy in this, but like I do think of like the Worf lines in this where he's like, "Find him and kill him." It's like, that's very funny, but like also Worf probably wouldn't say that, you know?
Yeah, I'm ready to talk Worf because I know who I'm doing this show with.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's like. Worf is a very many funny things, but Worf's a leader, and Worf's competitive too. We know that about his backstory where he headbutted a kid to death in a soccer game. And so like Worf is either going to not do this or he's going to like be in charge. Do you know what I mean? Like he's going to lead these bad news bears to victory, which by the way, this is just the bad news bears, right? Like it's
totally. That's
it's just a ragtag team of people who lose the game, but win in spirit. But so I didn't mind that so much, although I do think it is a little cheesy. My favorite Worf scene in this episode, though, is when he. First of all, if we're going to accept the premise that Worf can't hit a ball coming at him, like imagine it's an enemy's head and the bat is a batleth, like that thing's in two, right? But for some reason he can't hit a baseball. Fine. So if we just accept that premise,
it's kind of fun to think about. Like, he choked on baseball of all things.
Yeah, I guess. So he's at bat, and so he accepts that he can't hit the ball, so he understands strategy, and he's going to like play the pitcher. He's going to try to like walk, right? Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what he does. So they load the count, and then he gets the walk, and he's like, "Fuck yeah, I'm on base." But for whatever reason, Odo's not. He makes the call that it's a strike.
Yeah.
And then we get the whole blow up from Cisco. But I like the fact that Worf is like, okay, so I can't hit the ball, but I understand. All right, there are other rules to this game where I can succeed and like find victory, and so I'm gonna get this guy to walk me on base.
I like that. I didn't even catch on that. Like. I was just more just like Worf the meme, in this more than anything.
Goofy Worf, yeah.
Yeah. Like it did feel a little bit like I think all the way back to like him saying like, "I am not a merry man." And it's like such a, even before GIFs, it's like that's a GIFable, screen grab. So it's like this has that same energy, but it's just like, what else can Worf say,
You gotta take your Worf where you can get him, because why don't we have this Worf show already? Do you know what I mean? Like Worf is such a great character, but he so rarely, I think, fits into what's going on Star Trek.
Especially after this season, like the movies. We talked about when he said the Romulans fought with honor. It's like, who is Worf at this point? Yeah.
Yeah. And we fixed that. Like, I think DS9 is where he ends up really fitting the best. But if you can't just stop the entire show and go do Birthright or do something like with the Duras family or something like that, then he's just sort of like meme guy. And
or he just like there to get his ass
comes
kicked
back a little
by
bit.
Someone.
Yeah. I mean, later in the season, he'll, kill Gowron and become Chancellor for 2 seconds. But like in this episode, it's like, all right, you got to be the catchphrase guy.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm watching TNG again, like I always do, and I'm gonna look out for that because there are times where Worf surprisingly has like a storyline in an episode that I didn't remember that being the focus, but it's pretty rare. He's usually just like, no, we shouldn't let them come on the bridge. Ah,
yeah. Why won't you let me shoot the phasers? In this episode, Cisco is wearing a San Francisco Giants hat, and Jake is wearing an Atlanta Braves hat. And the reason for that is, I mean, San Francisco, obviously, but Jake, Cirque Lofton's uncle, was Kenny Lofton, and he was a major league player who played for both San Francisco and Atlanta.
That's neat. Was that the only like actual team references there?
Well, Avery Brooks wears the number 15, and that is a reference to the black major league player Dick Allen, who is a 7-time All-Star and the 1972 American League MVP. And he played primarily for the Phillies in the 60s.
Okay. So, that's cool. I always like that when they tie it in to the real life stuff, or like then like the fake future stuff. Yeah.
And as this was early in the 7th season, this aired in October during the 1998 World Series. And in that series, the New York Yankees swept the Padres for their 24th championship. Damn Yankees.
Everyone had baseball fever when this was out, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, that was a couple years after the strike. I don't know if you remember.
I don't remember. No.
Yeah.
90s, I was like, it was basketball mode because we were winning there. So
welcome to the jam.
Didn't really care about baseball. Well, no, actually, that's not true because Sammy Sosa and the home run thing.
Oh
yeah. But overall,
Sammy Sosa. Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was cool, even though I didn't really. I was just like, yeah, that dude can hit a lot of home runs. I cannot hit a home run.
Yeah. They filmed this episode at Loyola Marymount University in LA, and it was it was one of those things where usually when you're going outside, you're in a rock quarry or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think the cast really liked the fact that they got to go outside, and it wasn't just hanging out on a baseball field. It wasn't climbing rocks or doing something like that.
It's probably had the same kind of vibe of a baseball game because you're just like kind of chilling for a while, between takes, like, like a lot of baseball is kind of, hanging out, waiting for something to happen.
Chewing Scotch gum and
Scotch gum. Yeah. O'Brien was fun in this.
I'm glad that I really like that moment when they bring the crowd back because, when they first start the game, they bring the crowd out, and then Cisco's like, my guys, they haven't played in front of a crowd. So you think like, man, they took all the time to
get the extras.
Everybody's family members, come and sit in the stands, and then we get rid of them. But then, of course, they bring them back at the end for the finale.
For a good moment, yeah. So it worked. I like that O'Brien kind of like took over a little bit. Like, I was like, that seems like a good choice. Like, they were studying and he didn't really seem to know about baseball, but like, he seems like maybe the next most likely to get baseball. Other than Worf, I guess Worf, I could see him getting into it.
I think that it's weird. We've talked about this before, where they just kill baseball, like in Star Trek. Like they just decide there's no baseball, it's gone, and it's all because some character. God, what episode was it? It was the first episode of the 3rd season, right? With the nanites.
With the Scrubs Doctor.
Yeah, with Scrubs Doctor. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Evolution is the name of the episode.
Yes, Wesley lets his nanites get out and ruin his project. Yeah.
Yeah, and that episode was written by Michael Piller, so the guy loves baseball, but he specifically has a character say, oh yeah, baseball. Nobody's played baseball in 200 years. And so they immediately
cool, though.
They immediately kill baseball for some reason. But yet, I feel like in other series, and as time has gone on in the Star Trek universe, they make it clear that like just about every other sport exists. Like I think they've mentioned soccer, like and football on Discovery, like they definitely still exist. And for some reason, like poor Buck Buckeye, like they just killed baseball, and only weirdos like Cisco and Cassidy, like are the only people who are keeping baseball alive.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it just becomes kind of a niche hobby because clearly it's enough that a human and a Vulcan can like talk to each other about it or something, you know? Like,
yeah.
So I could see that though, where it becomes, you know, this, cause maybe they were just kind of thinking about the trajectory of baseball at the time too, because it used to be probably way more prominent compared to the other sports, I would say. And then like football is like way bigger now.
Well, yeah, which I think says more about America than us loving baseball. I just wonder if it's some part of the kind of the repudiation that Star Trek does of American culture sometimes, like the fact that it's so important to them. Like, I'm not saying that you need money in society. Maybe a society where we got rid of money would be very hard to, you know, get goods and services. Even if you've got unlimited resources, like you've got replicators, you still have to like distribute it somehow. So I think there's a lot of theories about how money in utopia are or aren't, bedfellows. But it's important for like 80s and like early 90s Trek to be like, we don't care about, you know, crass commercialism and consumerism.
Mm-hmm.
We don't pursue money anymore. You know, we don't have that. We've got a one world government. You know, it's not about factionalism. The Russians love their children too, and that sort of thing. And I feel like baseball gets like lumped in with that. Like if we are out to kill this idea of Americanism or like factionalism that, you know, we haven't got rid of course, in our own world, then baseball has to be an unfortunate casualty to that.
I never got that sense because just because it's always so fondly spoken about, you know.
But nobody ever talks about basketball.
Yeah, maybe basketball's gone too. I don't know. Has anyone ever played basketball? Memory Alpha basketball right now. But,
well, like everybody, yeah, that's good point. Like everybody, I think it's a racial thing because as much as Trek wants all races to be involved, and they've always been good about multiracial casting and stuff, it's still written by a bunch of white guys. So if they're going to envision a future where, how do we fix all the things that are wrong with America? And they go, well, clearly there's no TV in baseball, but they wouldn't even think about trying to get rid of basketball or even comment on basketball. Now, if there are more Jews writing for Star Trek, I think that we would definitely answer the question of like where basketball is.
Well, I think, there's the next thing we
Jewish
need
guys
to
love basketball.
tackle. I think like every time, I guess the first time they really talk about it, now that I think of it, is the Scrubs doctor, and his whole point is that, like, the whole point of his character is he's like way too obsessed and maybe he's kind of bad, and so maybe he's not the best person. But I usually feel like maybe because I associate it with Cisco more, like they're always so wistful about baseball, like it's something for our past that we should treasure because it, like, you know, it's like where we came from, and it's a way
you can't talk about baseball in media without bringing up tradition.
It's already that, right?
Yeah, this idea of spirituality. Even a movie like Moneyball, which is literally about the approach to baseball of numbers. You know what I mean? Forget that guy looks good. He's a, you know, he looks good pitching, batting, whatever. It's all about numbers. Like, can this guy get on base? He does. It doesn't matter how he looks. If he's fat Chris Pratt or whatever, put him on. We're going to win. And even I don't know if you've seen the movie Moneyball, but even at the end of that film, it's like, you know, I just love this game. I just love this game so much. You know, Field of Dreams. If you build it, they'll come. Even Bull Durham is about just, you know, letting go and feeling the baseball. And whenever they do this on TV in genre, you get it too. Like, he throws the ball up at the end and it becomes the space station. It's so cheesy. I don't know if you ever saw the episode of The X-Files that was directed and written by David Duchovny, where there's aliens playing baseball. Like, at the end of the episode, Mulder and Scully are just shagging balls, and he hits a ball and it goes up and turns into a star in the sky. And it's like,
so sick.
I hate baseball media because it's always cheesy.
I love it. I don't know why. It is. I agree with you, but
like The Natural. I should love that movie, but I hate it because it's all about like, oh, Robert Redford is Wonder Boy and he's going to hit the ball and the lights are going to explode and everybody's going to like, woo, yay.
Okay, and then on the flip side, and see, this is why we got to get rid of basketball, because I think what the first thing now that comes to my head when I think of basketball media is Uncut Gems, and that does speak to
cynical and
some of the bad impulses of our current society. Yeah, maybe they need to do the basketball Uncut Gems Star Trek episode.
Even like Space Jam, which is nominally a basketball movie,
it's
is
a commercial.
about how much. It's about how much Michael Jordan loves baseball. Like, he loves the game, and he's going to get back and play the game, you know?
The baseball is to show that he's like a traditional dude who cares about his dad. It reminds him of his dead dad or whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, it does in real life. Like, I can't handle schmaltziness and, like, dishonesty in media, and I love baseball, and every baseball media is about, like, this, it's all about the game, man. It's all about heart.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why. There's something I totally recognize that is what it is, but there's something about it that
it works for you.
It works for me, and I don't even like baseball. Like, I don't watch it or care about it, but I just always like. I think it's just because I always like pretty much in Star Trek where it reminds me that it's like, this is our world and it is our future, you know.
Yeah.
That this could be how things are, for better or for worse, you know. And so, like, I always love, like, when they're kind of wistful about the past.
Yeah.
I mean, it does get overboard. I think, especially in later series, it goes a little too far. And even in this aspect you're talking about, yeah, it does definitely. But
Sisko is kind of the CB in this episode, but they turn it on its head because they don't, like, you know, it's important for Danny to prove himself to his opponent in the Fame episode and not be the crybaby anymore. But in this, it's more about, as we talked about, like, Sisko giving up on it. It doesn't matter. This guy is like 3 times as strong and as fast as you.
Don't smash your furniture.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And really, like, he's the one who's being weird about it. He's written like 5 different papers about how Vulcans are always, like, physically superior to humans, and he's the one who's hanging on to this. For Sisko, it's like, it's this weird memory, and it's like, yeah, it sucked that he beat me at that wrestling match, but I've gone on to become an accomplished Starfleet officer, and I'm running, like, this entire war effort, and this other guy who's obsessed with this thing. It's like how, like, we all, I don't know if we all do, I know I do, but you've got a friend who you had some kind of disagreement with them, or they got one up on you, and, like, every time you see them, it's the only thing that they bring up. And I don't know why they do it. Maybe it's because they would like to have they'd like to have more than one touchstone with you, like, which is this thing where they were right about something or they beat you at something. I have a very good friend of mine, has a husband, and I don't know the husband very well. Like, I'm very good friends with her, but whenever I see him, we don't have a lot to talk about. And I usually see him in, like, the context of going out to a bar or a restaurant or something like that. And at the bar, there's always, like, air hockey or there's darts or something like that. And so we inevitably, when we interact, end up playing air hockey or darts. And he's way better at bar games than I am. So whenever we get together, I know he's going to crush me at pool or whatever it is, or golden tee. And then that's all he's going to talk about is like, oh, man, I had you on the thing. It's like, yep, there you go.
Oh, yeah, okay, that
and
type of... Yeah.
When we separate, we won't talk about that again. Like, I won't really interact with him. But when I get together with him again, it's going to be some other game. And it's like, it's kind of like, that's how I see it. It's like Sisko learns to go, yeah, it's fine. He's gonna beat me at golden tee. And, like, who cares? Whatever.
Yeah, that reminds me of I also have kind of a personal anecdote like that. Yeah, I had a friend who was very into baseball and also was very competitive, and really wanted everyone to, like, play baseball together. Like, we would play, like, kickball and stuff like that, something that's more accessible for people. But okay, we'll play baseball. And my roommate, who I mentioned runs a baseball league, he this was years and years ago, but he's like, oh, I got all the stuff. I coach a team. You know, let's play some baseball. So we go to the park near my house, and my friend, who's super competitive, is like trying to pitch strikes to everyone. It's like, come on, we're playing a game. and no one can play. Like none of us play baseball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're just not having fun. And then my friend, who's the coach, he is very much aware of like people want to have fun, and he knows how to facilitate that. So he's like, "Here, how about I'll pitch for everyone, and you guys play." And he starts pitching hittable, pitches, and then the mood totally changes because everyone's hitting, they're running the bases. You know what I mean? And this episode actually, it did make me think of that friend and all that stuff. Like we're actually not even really friends anymore, but it does make me think of like, man, like I sort of got this like weird bad energy at times too from like, oh come on, we're taking this a little too seriously,
Yeah, underhanded or something.
Yeah. But so I could totally see that in this episode of just like, like I said, the stakes aren't too high. I wasn't like really clicking in on the story of like, oh yeah, that's amazing. But I liked it. I was like, the episode is fun, and that's kind of the message of the episode too, is like, let's just have some fun, especially in wartime.
Yeah. I mean, this is all, I could see like a movie, or like an episode of MASH or something. I'm sure there's probably 15 seasons or whatever. There's an episode like this where somebody comes in and it's like, hey, it's just we're chilling out. There's a war going on, and so take it easy. We see that in Fame too, where they're really playing softball instead of baseball, because there's even a part where they're like, we're going to play hardball, and it's like, no, come on, I'm not going to be responsible for that. We're just going to play softball. This is supposed to be a friendly game, and of course it gets out of hand. We hear in this episode, for the first time, I think ever, and only time, the Federation
anthem. Yeah.
Which is, of course, done to mimic, what happens at a baseball game when you play the national anthem. And I think they do it for that reason. But again, I'm obsessed with like this idea of what does that mean to the people in the Federation? Like, it's never explored in Trek what it means for a member of the Federation to be a member of the Federation. Like, do they have patriotism? Is that something that they feel? Is there jingoism? The only thing that we get is we know that in Discovery, it's like the people on the Discovery, like, it's very important for them to be a part of the Federation and to defend it and to feel like
they talk about the ideals.
Yeah, in Starfleet, yeah. But otherwise, like, they play this anthem and everybody's quiet. I don't know if I can tell if they feel reverent for it. I know one thing, Quark looks really bored.
Yeah.
He doesn't really care.
I don't think they do, because and maybe this is just me, like, this is what I would hope it is, but like, I get this vibe from that scene that it's not something they really do, and they're just doing it because Sisko is like,
this is what we do.
This is what you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I know it doesn't really make sense, but this is what we do, because no one ever looks like particularly emotional in that scene,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just kind of the vibe I got from it, is that none of them are like that patriotic. Though I do think in the show, maybe it's not really the Federation, but I think in the show you obviously always have episodes where people are talking about like the ideals of a Starfleet officer and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I know that's more towards like the military duty they serve, but I think that still kind of comes across, like that they have some sort of reverence for the Federation or whatever, what their duty means.
Yeah, I just wonder how they feel about like the idea of patriotism. I think that they often see it from the other side, like in episodes of the various shows. They'll run into people who are taking things a little too far, or who are being antagonistic about their society in comparison to another society. But that's just one of those things that the franchise never really explores.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're kind of doing it on Discovery, so maybe.
There's definitely, I mean, for the position of Solok, there's definitely like a racial chauvinism that he employs in all of his papers and stuff about how Vulcans are superior. At some point, you have to wonder. We only see Solok this one time, and I know he shows up in like extended media, but you have to wonder like if the rest of the scientific community is like, we get it. You beat him in a wrestling match. Jesus Christ, this is bordering on like racial theory here. Like, get over it. Another paper, Christ.
I like that. Like you see, Vulcans are
Vulcan tendons. Now listen to this. Vulcan tendons are stronger than it's like Jesus Christ.
He's measuring
the
skulls.
Pinda guy. Come on, yeah, he's done to Vulcan phrenology. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, looking forward to your new paper, asshole. Let's look at technology, which I guess is involved in a baseball game. In some ways, it's definitely important in the Star Trek universe, and sometimes it fosters the drama and the conflict, and sometimes it hinders it. And on every episode, we go through a list of fictional Star Trek technologies. We add one to the non-Trek media, and we subtract it from the Trek episode, and we see how each is different. We call this our technological exchange. And here is the technological list that we work off of. On it is phasers, holodecks, tricorders, transporters, warp drives, replicators, communicators, shields, advanced medical technology, and androids. And if we randomly pick from this list using my random number device, we get number 7, communicators. If communicators existed in the world of fame, how would things be different?
So, that kind of works because they don't have... you don't have like cell phones or anything yet.
I think each one of these technologies is physical except for the literal act of communication. But once again, we're not going to let the list kill the show.
No.
How would fame be different?
I like it when we get the harder ones.
If we
phasers
extend
is
this,
easy, but
yeah, phasers is easy. If we extend this to literally the act of communicating in the Star Trek universe, which now we know, thanks to Discovery, could involve full-body holograms, how would that make attending school different?
Well, right now, I guess, so if in the 80s this technology came to be, and then COVID happens in 2020, we have a
you
little
could
bit
full on have people attending school virtually.
Yeah, so... I mean,
if you're going to go to this dance academy, you could live, in Zimbabwe or something like that, and be attending the New York School of Arts, just as a hologram.
This could really spice up their performances too.
Yeah. Could you be a part of the baseball game then? Would they be able to play the game in such a way, like with a holographic ball or something like that?
So if they had a holodeck that they were just...
Well, it's not... they're not interacting with... artificially created holodeck matter. I love the fact that we've seen a holosuite. How do you fit to 18 people into a holosuite and they're all playing, in a virtual environment? That doesn't...
it tricks your eyes.
Yeah, it certainly does. Everybody's just standing in place and jumping up and down or running. But
sure.
But yeah, in Fame, maybe you could have... maybe there's a bunch of Dominican Republic students who are there to dance, but they're like, yeah, we'll join your baseball team. And then suddenly
it's over.
The Fame team has a lot better chances to beat Zachary Taylor High.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's the only possible, I don't know, I guess they could talk to the other guys who were at the arcade instead of the game. Hey, come to the game. I don't know. Communication isn't much of an issue in this episode. I would say 100% of the time the characters are communicating with each other.
Yeah, but what if Irving is actually he lives in Israel, and in Israel it's Sunday, it's not Saturday because of time zones, and so then Irving is able to actually participate holographically.
That'd be a good twist, or maybe he's not there, but he's like, I can't play. It's on Saturday.
Oh yeah,
and he's
they're
like,
trying to get.
Well, just
What do you
fly.
mean?
Yeah, just fly to the other side of the globe.
Sorry, man. It's Shabbos out here. I can't roll with you guys. Yeah.
And then he comes to the game.
And if they were participating holographically, then you'd have literal ghost runners.
Whoa.
Can you tag a holographic ghost runner?
That sounds like a parody Philip K. Dick novel.
Ghost runners. It's about
it's like ghost runners get tagged in I don't know.
Let's work this through. Is a ghost is a ghost runner really out by Philip K. Dick?
Whoa.
I don't know. Some of the I'm not good with finances. I don't understand stocks or mortgages or anything. But I'll tell you, as a kid, some of the work we did in our heads about where those ghost runners were on the Sandlot was like rocket science, nuclear physicist type stuff.
You're like the meme of like all the numbers and.
Now Johnny went home at 2, but Johnny's his ghost is on second, So when I hit that, that double, Johnny came home, but your ghost catcher dropped the ball, and so he's in. Like that's a run for us.
That is like a science that I have not thought of in so long.
Yeah. The kind of cerebral solutions that we used to come up with back in the day.
That could be a what's the Star Trek episode, the original series, where it's like they just simulate a war.
Yeah, that's one thing that we never saw them do. Have them input everybody's stats into the computer, and then it's like, I've ran this simulation. Nog is like running simulations. I ran this simulation, and they're going to beat us like 99 times out of 100. That
actually would be a really good like plot device there, where they're trying to like they're focusing way too much on the simulation, and Cisco's got to be like, look, it's not about the computer. There's the human factor.
Now it does sound like TOS.
They have to free an ancient baseball simulation society and teach them how to have heart and love of the game.
Right. Well, let's see the opposing team. Oh my God, they're Nazis. We got to beat this Nazi baseball team. Americana, we should beat you at your own game.
Apparently an old broadcast of a Nazi baseball game landed on this
into the computer
and their whole society.
It's based on Nazi baseball. Okay, all right. The list makes these things possible, and that's why we keep it around.
Yeah, we crushed it.
But wait till you get to removing communications from DS9 and take me out to the Holosuite.
The Dominion War would be so much harder to fight. I don't know.
Solak, okay, here's something else we never look at in Star Trek, like their internet, right? They must have one, even though they didn't know about the internet in the 90s. So Solak's papers wouldn't be able to publish them so that the entire Federation scientific community would read.
Yeah.
So he would be a lot more evangelistic about his papers. He would have to, like, as soon as you met him, he'd be like, have you read my paper? My latest paper about how Vulcans are superior? Like, he would have to pass out pads to everyone, make sure
that
you
show
read
is true obsession, yeah.
Chapter 32 really, really explains why we're a lot better than humans.
So he would basically start his own cult of wrestling, I guess.
Cult of Solak. Yeah. I don't know how do Vulcans keep all their names separate? I don't mean maybe I'm being a little racist here, but it's
no, you're right.
Surok and Solak and Sizbok and Cybok and
I truly confuse. Like, if you say Solak to me in like the next episode, let's say, I won't remember who that is. I just always remember like that Vulcan dick, basically.
Yeah, right. We've got a handful of syllables to do this with. So Sarek and Spock is like one of the only like single syllable Vulcans males that we know.
Yeah, how did this evolve? I feel like Spock, that was the start, and then we're like, what's his dad's name?
Sarek, so that's 2 syllables, sure.
And then like from there on out, everything was based on his name, which is a good idea.
all the women have to have like a T apostrophe in front of their names, except for Savick. She's a 2-syllable name there. And then when Sarek married Amanda, well, that just opened up a whole new world of naming to,
it's just to Jane the Vulcan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sally.
We had a Melanie the other day. That was amazing. But yeah.
Or there's like a Tiffany.
Yeah, Racy. Yeah, we don't know. I don't know about her.
Yes.
Would well, I suppose Cisco grew up on Earth, so he would know about baseball. But I don't think we ever find out where Cassidy grew up. Like, would other humans even know about baseball if they couldn't read a Federation Wikipedia page on it? Cisco would have to spread the gospel of baseball.
You know what? There's an episode where she says, like, doesn't her like brother on some colony play baseball? And she's like, I got a recording of their game.
He's got a team. Yeah,
so
yeah.
People do play baseball. Maybe he's like a niche weirdo in his colony though too.
There's got to be like a baseball con then on some backwater planet.
Otakus, but for baseball.
Yeah,
they're like, I love American culture. I've been studying American culture. I've been learning how to swing a bat.
Yeah, I'm on a panel at SlamCon 83 this year. If I can make the transport out there,
just weirdos who like baseball.
And of course, you can't appear virtually at that con because they don't have the communications.
They visit Earth because it's like I'm thinking of it like the people who become obsessed with Japan and they're like, I've got a kimono that I wear, but they just wear like a baseball uniform when they go visit Earth.
Yeah. There's a lot of cons around in my area, and there is a group that organizes a Star Trek pub crawl every year. And I've only gone 1 year. I went in 2016 for the 50th anniversary, mostly because I was writing an article on it. And I met a couple who had they have Niners costumes, full baseball, DS9 baseball
That's so cool.
costumes that they do. Yeah, I got a picture of it somewhere.
That Niners is a really good team name. Isn't it like the Vulcan Logicians or something?
The Logicians. Yeah, it's terrible. It's just it's
the jump the shark thing, right?
Well, it's Jump the Shark, but we focus on, our scrappy crew, our Bad News Bears, like trying to figure out how to play. But there's a whole nother episode in how false and how disingenuous like Solak's love of the game is, and how much they don't get it. Like, yeah, they're the logicians. It's like, geez,
it's perfect for that. Like, I think what's the type of animal? Like, what's Spock's pet that he has?
A Selot?
Yeah, like that would be like the jokey way to go. It's just like the Vulcan Celots or something.
The Vulcan Celots, yeah.
But that gag of the Logicians is so good.
Yeah, they all have the same stupid haircut under their same hats.
Yeah. It's actually kind of...
I'm not surprised that Nog can't figure out like who.
Yeah, it's a little racist, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Though, I mean, I wouldn't be able to know, and like it's the same kind of thing in the Fame episode where it's like they have no idea who it is. Like,
yeah,
because I couldn't tell you.
You got that mask on, people run by you real fast. You're not sure who it was exactly.
Yeah, you see, like afterwards they have to have this whole meeting with Nog. Like, what you did out there was pretty messed up, man.
I just wonder how their heads stay on, like the actors, like Max Grodenchik, who, by the way, I should have said this first, is very good at baseball.
Oh.
He is, he loves baseball. He's into it. I think he played like minor league ball. Like, he is a total baseball dude. And then, of course, in the episode, they make him the worst player, and he doesn't even get to play at all, which is wonderful irony. But he's doing all these comedy bits. He's missing the ball and flipping and falling down. And it's like, how did their heads stay on while they did that?
Yeah, they're rolling around in the dirt.
Yeah, it's really great. It's great makeup work on this episode.
Yeah, it had to have won an award, right?
Yeah, sure.
They always do. It's always like, this episode won outstanding hairstyling, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, I can see
Good
that.
job,
I never would have
Haven.
thought about that, but yeah, yeah. Oh, all right, I think we covered it.
Yep, we got it.
We definitely got that. Just a pair of fun episodes that are basically the same episode, but give it a little sci-fi twist.
Yeah.
And if Ira Steven Behr got that 7th season of Fame, maybe we would have seen an entire space opera epic with these high school kids singing about something or other.
I wonder if we'll ever see this again, because we saw the baseball concept be used again. Like, I wonder what other like weird obsessions we can uncover in this. Like, there's the obvious stuff that like is just like feel like Star Trek Bible stuff, like Shakespeare, Moby Dick,
Yeah.
But I don't know. Something more specific.
Behr basically came up with Ryza, I think, right? Because that was one of his first scripts for TNG, and they had this thing where I think the order was Patrick Stewart wants to do something fun. Like, he's tired of just being like, "Oh, I'm Captain Picard."
Yeah.
And so we want to write an episode where he goes off and like has like a fun like sex romp. So come up with something. And then Ira Steven Behr's like, okay, Ryza. It's like a pleasure planet where everybody goes to fuck in like the Federation, and they kind of ran from there.
Yeah, and I guess they get a lot of mileage out of that, even into Deep Space Nine. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I love is that in DS9, like, Ryza's like, it's this fun place where, you can do whatever you want. I mean, you can fuck, but you can play volleyball. You can do whatever you want. It's all about consent and just everybody accepting. And then in Enterprise, they go to Ryza, and it's basically just like a big nightclub planet. like Malcolm and Trip are just like the SNL guys, like hanging out in a nightclub, like, ooh,
the Night of the
alien
Roxbury.
babe. Yeah.
I wonder if that's a case of I mean, it's the same people writing it, right? But like kind of misinterpreting it, like kind of like what you always say about like the sexy Kirk, or if it's just them honestly being like, this is like what it was like at a different time,
I think probably a little both.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Because I love Enterprise, but it is it's definitely it's sexist, and I'd like to think that it's,
I love Enterprise, but it's sexist.
Well, I'd like
You're
to think
right.
that it's that. I'd like to think that it's them saying like, 200 years before Picard, they hadn't worked all the kinks out yet, but it's just
certainly
Isn't Rick Berman and Brandon Braga, aren't they a little sexist?
They have to be, from what I understand.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Yeah. If we're to believe Yogi Berra, it's not over till it's over, but it is over now. Let's tell people what we're talking about on the next episode of Backtracking.
Well, it's jolly season now, and
it certainly is.
And so we're going to be diving into a Christmas classic. We're going to be watching The Christmas Carol, or whatever. How are we? Yeah, we're going to watch it. We're going to watch The Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And then we're going to watch the TNG classic Tapestry, which takes a lot of inspiration from it, of course.
Yeah, it's such a good sci-fi premise, except for the fact that it's tied up to Victoriana and Christmas. Like it is like a sci-fi story in a way, isn't it? Like it's time travel basically. Dickens is doing like a sci-fi type thing.
It is. Yeah, it's like it like lays the groundwork from it's more magic, I guess, than anything. It makes me think of like, Groundhog Day or whatever. Like, I love that kind of stuff though, like magical movies where it's not really explained or anything.
Yeah, but Groundhog Day made the choice to just say it doesn't really matter how it happens. He's just, living this day over and over again. In early time travel stories, they didn't have this idea until Wells. They didn't have an idea of a machine that would do something. So yeah, Rip Van Winkle just falls asleep, and because he's asleep, he doesn't age, I guess, and so he can go to the future like that. Or like John Carter of Mars, he goes into a cave and like he breathes in gas, and that somehow sends him back in time to like
so cool.
to Mars or something.
I love it though.
And it isn't until they came up with that goddamn railroad that people are like, oh no, a machine would send you back in time.
What if there was a railroad that could send you to space?
Yeah, that's right.
Has that been done?
The Space Railroad? No, there's the Phantom Toll Booth, I guess.
All right.
Doc Brown gets a time-traveling train in Back to the Future 3.
All right, edit this part out.
Yeah, we'll take all that out. Good idea here. But that's what we're talking about the next time. But that's it for this week. And thanks for listening, everybody. If you like the show, tell a friend about it. You can follow us at Backtrekking on Twitter. And we're always taking ideas for what we should look at in future episodes. So let us know on social media. And can we tell the people where they can find you online?
Yeah, go find me on Twitter. I'm at GUIFame.
And I'm at KA1IBAN on Twitter. You can find all the shows on the Just Enough Trope Network, also on Twitter at Just Enough Trope. Check us out there. That is it for us for this week. We will see you again soon. And until then, keep on trekking.